September, so you know that means it's time for my August book recap. In August, I read 5 books. That puts me at 38 total for the year, and I wanted to read 52, so I'm on a good track to complete my goal for this year. The first book I read was The Maid by Nita Prose. I didn't love this book. I felt like I read this story someplace else before. I thought the main character was really off in this weird way, and they don't even describe it really. She doesn't really describe it in an accurate way, so this is a 3 out of 5 for me. Second book I read this month was The Subtle Art of Not Giving an F by Mark Manson. I like this book. There's a lot of things in this book that are things that I say in my book, Organized Jewish Life, just in a slightly different way and with cleaner language. I want to take off some points for using the F word a lot. I read this book because my son was interested in reading this book and I finished it before him, but I think the message, the point is good, and I think he's a good writer. He's clear, he's succinct, he's to the point. I enjoyed reading this book. It was a quick read. I read it in a couple of hours. I recommend this book, so I would say just because of the language, 4 out of 5. Okay, book number 3 was City of Thieves by David Benioff? I don't know. Anyway, I really enjoyed this book. It's short. It's set in Russia during World War II. It's a really interesting, compelling story. It's different. I just thought that it was really well written. The story is interesting and compelling. It's easy to read. It didn't take me that long. It falls into my category of, under 300 pages. I really, really liked it. I highly recommend this book, 5 out of 5. Okay, so this isn't a usual book that I would read. Can't Hurt Me by David Goggins. At its core, I don't think that it's a well-written book. I'll just say that right off the bat. I think the story is interesting, but fundamentally, I don't agree with how he gets to where he gets to because I don't have the same value system as him. So I'm going to try to put that to the side as I review this book. Like I said, at the core, I don't think that this book is that well written. There's a lot of repetitiveness in it, and a lot of the language in it is just simply not necessary to get to where he needs to get to in terms of being inspiring. That being said, his story is super inspirational, and I do think it's worth reading because it's amazing to see how far he was able to push his body and how much he tried to get out of his situation and succeed. Again, at the core, I don't think where he succeeded is where I would want to succeed, but that doesn't mean that I don't find the story inspirational. So I'm going to give this book 4 out of 5 because I do think that it's a little bit repetitive, it's a little bit too long, and I think the language and just the editing could have been much stronger in this book, but overall, I find him to be very, very inspiring. So again, 4 out of 5. So full disclosure, this book was sent to me by the author, Jonah House of Fish by Ilana Harris. I think that this book is very interesting. I'll just start by saying that. It's very short, so it's easy to read. It only took me a couple of hours to read it. The interesting thing about this book is that it re-illustrates the story of Jonah and the whale, which is a story that most people know. It's appropriate to have read right before the Jewish high holidays. And I think that this story is very interesting and it gives backstory. I will say, I think it could have been so much more on Jonah's backstory, giving us insight into more even how he felt that he could run away from God. And the really fascinating thing is that Jonah's backstory is actually really fascinating in terms of who he was historically and how he fit into that time period. And I don't think that there was enough background on Jonah. That being said, the point of the story is to illustrate the original book of Jonah and to activate it and bring it more to life, in which I think she did a really good job. So I'm going to give this 4 out of 5, but I definitely would have loved to see a little more backstory about Jonah because he is a fascinating historical character just in general. And the 5th book I read was Torn by Amanda Hocking. This book my husband found for me in one of the street libraries here on the street, and it's definitely not something that I would normally read. It's the second book in the 3-part series, but it's definitely not something I would normally pick up. It's a little bit on the long side for me. I thought it's pretty well written, and the details are really interesting and well thought out. And so I'm going to give this one 5 out of 5. I hate to admit it, but I kind of enjoyed it. I'm reading this one right now. I'm almost done with it. And also a ton of French book. This one my husband found on the street too. So yay for people who leave books on the street. I'm really excited for all the books I'm going to read in September and October. I already have a long list queued up. I want to know what you're reading. So leave me a comment. And if there's anything you think I should read, either send it to me or just let me know in the comments.